Hey, what's up, everybody? Ralph here. So today's topic, I'm going to talk to you guys about why it's important to have an emergency fund. Now, the answer is obvious. Just in case there's an emergency, that you have some money to go to make sure you're still paying your necessary bills. But not only is it important to have an emergency fund, but it's also important to have a travel fund, an investment fund, education fund for your kids if you have children. So it's important to have different type of funds for different things you want to do with your life. And not just have one bank account where you're getting all your money. So it shows that you know how to manage money. But let me share with you a quick little story about how important having an emergency fund was for me. Back in like 2013, I remember I had a job, a 9-to-5 job, had a mortgage, I had a car note, I had all the regular bills that most people have. We got a new manager, and she was a mean one. I've been in that job since 2010, and then 2013, I eventually left. But I remember when she started working there. She was a mean one. She would yell at some of my coworkers, and then eventually it got to me. So I remember the day before I decided to quit. I wrote up my resignation letter, because I was like, if she says anything to me, she says anything stupid to me, I'm done. So the next day, the night before, I wrote up my resignation letter. Then the next day work came, and I remember early in the morning, I could hear her running to my desk, and I could hear her saying my name, and I'm like, oh, here we go. So she comes over to me while I'm helping a temp worker, and she gets up, she says something to me, and then she yells at me, and then I yell back at her. I tell her to go back to her desk and leave me alone. So, boom, I went back to my desk. 5 minutes later, I got an email saying, we're gonna meet up for have a meeting. So I already knew what that was, right? So we went to a meeting room, and she wrote me up. So then I asked her, like, so are you writing me up? And she said yes. I was like, well, on that note, here's my resignation letter. So I left. And this is, like I said, when I quit, I had a car note, I had a mortgage, I had all the regular bills that any normal person would have. So when I made that decision, I knew when I was leaving, I still had bills to pay. The good thing about it is that I had about like maybe $11,000 saved up. Now, it wasn't an emergency fund. It was just savings that I had. If I could go back, I would actually create like 3 to 6 months of savings, and then allocate my resources that way. But it was just money that I had just saved up in my bank account. But I would have done it differently. I would have had a separate account just for an emergency fund. But I had the money in order to, just in case, to make sure I pay my bills. So that was in May of 2013 when I quit. And then 2007, I was in May 2013, and then I found a job, in December. So having that money saved up in my account, it allowed me to not have to rush to find a new job. And it gave me still the power to say, if I was done with my job, I can leave. Right? I didn't have to be stuck there like, oh man, I gotta just take whatever she's giving me, because what am I gonna do? I gotta pay my bills. For me, having that emergency fund, having money in my account to make sure I can still pay my bills while still looking for a job, allowed me the comfort of taking my time and being able to find another job that works for me. And I know a lot of people are not in that situation. I remember reading a report. I'm sure a lot of people have read this report that I'm not sure how much it was, but like half of Americans don't have $1,000 saved up in their bank account. I'm not sure if it's half or 40%. It was somewhere around there. I just know that a certain amount of Americans don't have $1,000 saved up in their account. And for me, that's crazy that you don't have at least $1,000. And that tells you that a lot of people are struggling, either not making enough money, or then just not managing their money properly. And for whatever reason, it's just something that we need to be more intentional about, because we know that emergencies happen, whether you get sick or you have issues with your car. You don't want to have to be like, oh damn, I don't have money, and then you have to go to that credit card, because we all know how that can affect you financially going forward in the future. Having to be like, all right, you don't have any money, let me use a credit card. And all you're doing is like just digging that hole deeper of debt. And once you've accumulated more debt, all you're doing is just being a slave to the card, to the person that's holding that you owe the money to. And you don't want that. You want to have the option to be like, all right, you know what? I can go about where I want to do and do what I need to do with my money, and not to be beholden to any creditor. And it just leaves you a lot of options, a lot of freedom. So it's important to have that emergency fund. If you don't have that emergency fund, if you're working right now, just make sure you set aside some money for that emergency fund. It doesn't have to be too much, but you want to make sure you build that up to, at least $1,000, and if you can more. Set aside money. Like if you're making, $5,000, set aside, about 15-20% to emergency fund until you build it up to a certain amount, 3 to 6 months of expenses. So it's important because it gives you that cushion, it gives you that freedom to not have to be stressed out to go use that credit card, because you don't want to get there. I've like I said, if you've seen watch my other videos, I've had over $30,000 of credit card debt twice in my life, and I don't want to go back there. And I've managed my money much better, so I don't have to go back there. And because I've managed my money properly, where I can set aside money for like emergency funds and things I want to do, that I can make sure that I'm not put in a position where I'm stressed out and I have to go use that credit card, because you don't want to you don't want to get to a point where all you're doing is using that credit card and you're not making sure you're paying that balance off every month. So it's important to have that emergency fund. It's important to make sure that you're managing your money to a point where you can not be stressed out about how to make sure you're paying bills the next month. So if you don't have an emergency fund, try to work on that. Just make sure you're setting aside money, and if you got to reduce expenses, do that. All right, just get rid of all those unnecessary expenses that aren't doing anything for you, that you don't need, and make sure you're building up that emergency fund. All right. So that's all I got for you guys today. If you guys got any comments or questions, make sure you leave a comment down below. Hit the like button. And make sure to subscribe. All right. Take care and have a good one. Later.